I'm giving away my chance to fly this thing again for the greater good.
Okay, so what are you going to do with these guys?
Let's start with a concept that I'm going to try to illustrate in flight. My concept is that these accidents always follow a pattern. The pattern is an event occurs, the event causes distraction, distraction causes loss of control.
So we set up a repeatable experiment, got 4 CFIs, and they all faced the following situation.
All right, very good. You're flying the airplane. We're just going to do a landing check. Landing lights on, boost pumps are on. We got a gear problem.
Is it weird to be famous?
Yes.
I started the Flight Chops channel with the idea that the aviation community is stronger if we share our learning experiences, successes, and failures. It's awesome that the channel's grown to a point where I get these amazing opportunities to do things like get rescued by the Coast Guard or fly a DC-3. And now I'm in a position to be able to give these things away to you guys, which is even more rewarding.
Got an update. My name's Jackson Madden, new private pilot from Ohio with Flight Chops. He's talking to some people and he's about to give away the 4 seats on the DC-3.
For my purposes, I'm going to give away the 4 seats right here, right now.
Oh, wow.
This is Russ. Got me in the middle of the thing here. You coming?
So I'm really starting to focus more heavily on these experiential giveaways. And in this case, being at Sun and Fun, it was a really unique opportunity to fill the airplane up and share a really amazing learning experience with a bunch of pilots. So I hope you enjoy this one. We're going to try to tackle a pretty serious subject.
Flight Chops!
Yo! Kevin really hooked us up, man. We were not going to make it here on time without this ride. Got us 2 golf carts with almost no notice.
For you 4 guys that are flying it, all we're going to do is cycle you through the left seat. I'll give each of you some stick time. We were going to let Flight Chops fly the airplane, but he did so bad last time he blew away a Cub. I'm not letting him fly the airplane anymore. I'm done. That's the last time we're doing that. So he said, why don't we let somebody else fly it and we'll try to capture your experiences flying the airplane. And if you learned anything from the flight, maybe you would agree to let him use your footage and maybe a debrief on what you learned from it so that other people could share in what your experience was. That's kind of the idea as a sharing thing. And I think it's a great idea that Steve came up with to do it that way.
So this episode is going to deal with a very serious scenario. It's not going to get into specifics about flying the DC-3. If you want to learn about that, there's several episodes already out there. I'll link to them. In the meantime, let's get down to it. It's a pretty serious tone, so no more music.
It was August 12th of 2000. My friend Brock lost his life in an airplane accident. It was a loss of control accident, and I'd never heard of loss of control or the whole entire concept. Since then, we've done a lot of experimentation and research concerning LOTOT, loss of thrust on takeoff. We did this video at Sun and Fun to try to educate just a little bit more and shed some new light on this important concept called loss of control.
So the plan here was to do more than just go for a fun flight. This issue obviously is very close to Dan's heart, and we wanted to get the most learning benefit for everyone.
We'll cycle you through the cockpit. When it's time to change seats, do it real slow. I'll help you with the seat belts. We're going to do a positive exchange of controls. Somebody's going to be flying this airplane at all times. Well, the concept is artificially create a scenario that you could capture and use that to illustrate so that other people could learn off of it.
These guys are going to be more qualified than I am to be facing the scenario you want to put them in, and their training primacy probably didn't address the problem that you want to address, right?
Correct.
This footage was anonymously sent to Dan while we were working on the concept for this episode. He asked me what I thought the biggest killer in GA was. Thoughts of complacency, flying VFR into IMC, fuel starvation, or CFIT came to mind, but he explained that those are simply links in the chain of events that, if unbroken, ultimately lead to the actual answer.
What's the #1 killer in GA? The actual truth is, the real answer is loss of control. There's our first guy right there. All right.
Okay, so go ahead and
you can do it.
put that on.
There's always an event that happens, something abnormal occurs in the cockpit. Could be any one of a number of things, but there's always a trigger. There's an event. The event causes the pilot flying to get distracted.
Did you solo on your 16th birthday?
Yes, sir.
And you already got your CFI, huh?
Yep, CFI, CFII.
Wow. Well, you are cranking it up.
So the event, distraction, loss of control. Every time it's the same pattern. What would happen if instead of just going out and giving a joyride, we went out and we created, let's brief these guys that they're going to be the pilot flying, and their job is to fly the airplane. At all costs, don't hit anything, no slower than 90 knots.
Stay above 1500 and just kind of play with the airplane as far as pitch and bank and rudder. Just kind of feel it. Feel how long it takes for the airplane to respond.
It takes forever.
So I'm going to cut between these 4 guys flying and the related briefings.
This thing flies like a 172. Don't be intimidated by the size. It's just an airplane. So your job is don't bump into anything and watch your speed. Same thing you would tell a student pilot. Fly the airplane, put your eyes outside the window, look where you're going, don't hit nothing, and nothing less than 90 knots.
And now just ease the nose up. All right, come on up a little bit. Stall speed's 64, so you're a long ways away from stall. Just come on up a little bit. And notice how sluggish everything is. Yeah, it is. You got to really beat it with rudder to make everything happen. You do. This is awesome. All right, now go back to wings level and unload it. Rudder first, wings level, nose down. There you go. Beautiful. But see the response time? Yeah. Look how long it takes it to roll out. Yeah. And look at all that aileron just to get her stopped. Just for the fun of it. Put your feet flat on the floor for a second. Yeah. Now give it full aileron in either direction. Wow, man. See how long it takes. It's just like, yeah, right. It just doesn't do much. All right, let's be back on the pedals. There they are. You're still the pilot flying unless I say the magic words, which are? You've got the plane. If I say I got the airplane, that means I got it. All right. On landing, I'm probably going to help you a little bit, but that's not me taking the controls. Okay. You still got it until I say those words. All right.
That's an important point to remember for later. Jason's going to get to do the final landing, but since he was part of the production, he wasn't in on the experiment. So let's get back to that.
How are we losing control of these airplanes? And it's not necessarily GA. Loss of control morphs over into regionals and 135 and even big airlines experience loss of control. The Colgan accident was loss of control. The recent Atlas Air accident was a 767 and they lost control of it. So how do we end up in loss of control, and why is that such a large slice of the pie? The lessons that we could learn off of this can apply to the private pilot, the Cub driver, the 172 driver, your Sunday flyer, being aware that loss of control is our #1 problem.
All right, so we're going to get you either a landing or low pass, something up here on 9 right. Not a big deal. I'm going to let you do it all. You're the pilot flying, right? Yes, sir. Your job is to control the airplane and nothing less than 90 knots, right?
Nothing less than 90.
Yep.
What happens if I can put them into a situation where I can distract them severely, where they're going to get the nose up and the speed's going to go away?
It's between you and me, secretly, what is your plan to do that to these guys? These are CFIs that are fairly experienced.
They're all CFIs, but you know what the main secret here is? They're all human beings.
Yeah.
Have you got a good visual on your airspeed indicator there?
Yes, sir. There's somebody on the runway.
I'm not sure what that is.
Somebody crossed on the runway.
Yep.
You went around.
The cool thing was that the crazy environment at Sun and Fun created enough real distractions. In this case, there was a corporate jet that was not on frequency and ended up having to go around because another aircraft crossed the runway. It was nuts.
All right, you got 9 right in sight? I do. Not sure if they're going to give us a low approach or a touch and go, but we'll find out in a second here. In any case, you're the pilot flying, okay? Okay. Even if you got a touch and go, I might reach up here and nudge the yoke if I need to, but you're still flying. Okay. So until I say I got it, you're flying the airplane.
Altitude's 1100, and I got the DC-3 in sight. And make a right turn to follow the DC-3. He'll be a low approach for runway 9 right.
I can create a scenario where they get distracted and they're not going to pay attention to their job of flying the airplane, and their speed's going to go away, and it's going to go away fast. I'm going to ask them to confirm green light on the landing gear, and when they look down, even though we put the gear down, their gear is unsafe and they're about to touch down.
Okay.
The gear's actually going to be down,
right,
but I'm going to give them an orange light instead of a green light when they're expecting a green.
That's awesome, because it's so many people just check a thing that they're expecting it to be in a certain state, and then when it's not in that state, it's like you either A, don't notice, or B, notice and get distracted.
Yeah.
I can go nose down or landing checklist, landing lines, boost pumps are on.
Landing gear.
So this guy set the bar really high. He caught the issue himself and never stopped flying the airplane.
You want to troubleshoot the gear?
DC-3, did you want to turn it downwind, or are you departing the area?
We're going to go back out to the south again and stay 5 south and call you back when we're ready to come back in.
Sounds good. 3 miles straight out before any turns, and we'll talk to you later.
Yes, sir. Thank you. There was nothing wrong with the gear. I did that to you. I was attempting to distract you by telling you we were going to land and then not giving you a green light. So I wanted you to lose control and focus in, but you did a really good job. You flew the airplane very nicely, so I'm going to give you an A+ for that. But that was the drill. When you go in back, I'm going to do the same thing to the other guys. Just don't tell them that that's what I'm going to do.
I won't tell them.
Okay.
I always teach my students to check gumps for everything. Take off as well, but you kind of do it in reverse. But especially for landing, make sure the gear's down. And I was trying to go through it, even though it's a new thing to me. I was trying to look through everything.
I was impressed. This is your first time with something this big, and you stayed on board. You didn't get situationally.
That was the first time I was on something this big. I normally fly Moonies or 150s or something.
So you fly Moonies. That's fairly complex and fast. But that's cool, man, because
But they're small. They're very small.
How different everything was, and you stayed on board. Some guys just stopped. I
even incorporated my ForeFlight. I used my ForeFlight while I was
I saw you
doing that. I pulled out my charts and was doing radios and stuff like that to
you were on the ball, man.
Try and keep up with him.
You did keep up. Good job, man.
Follow DC3, number 2, clear to land on right.
All right, see our landing gear here? Yeah.
Dan Chang, CJ6.
Doesn't look down to me.
Doesn't look down. So we got a problem.
Don't worry about the gear. That's not your job. If the gear's unsafe, still fly the airplane first. But I think I can get them distracted enough to where their job of airspeed nothing less than 90 knots, they're going to violate that.
I want your speed. So your speed's at 80.
Okay.
Let's go more nose down. All right, very good. You're flying the airplane. We're just going to do a landing check. Landing lights on, boost pumps are on. Confirm we got down at 3 green.
3 green.
We were obviously doing an experiment. We hadn't done it before. Our deal today is we had 4 really very good CFIs, even though I threw them a really good curveball. Most of them did pretty good, but if you notice in the sequence there was a few nuggets where they really did get distracted.
Actually, we don't. Our green light didn't come on.
No green light.
Yeah.
I can't remember, one of you said, yeah, I see the green light, and it wasn't green. You know, you guys did great. You don't have to be embarrassed that you went out there and made a mistake on a Flight Chops video and people are going to laugh at you, because you didn't. You did a great job. You really did. But you can see where we were headed with that, and we caught a lot of really interesting things that he'll be able to catch on his video as far as airspeed and distraction.
While we're climbing out, I'll tell you what the deal was. You were a guinea pig for Flight Chops here. I tried to get you distracted with the landing gear, and did you see what happened to your speed there when we were both looking at that?
Yeah, they got down a little bit.
It got down a little bit.
Yeah.
Not bad. You did a nice job of doing your job, which is flying the airplane. You didn't lose control of the airplane, but I think it's safe to say you got distracted for a second.
Yeah.
That just means that you're a human being.
Yeah.
You were the subject of a little guinea pig test. What causes loss of control? Distractions cause loss of control. So I set you guys up. You're gonna get distractions in life. You're gonna get things that go wrong. So the order is always an event happens. I don't care what it is. Something happens that causes a distraction. This distraction causes loss of control. It's the same thing every time. So what I did to you is I gave you an unsafe gear. Our gear was actually safe. It was down and locked. All I gave you was an indication that it wasn't right. So we were never in any danger. There wasn't anything wrong. I wouldn't do that to you.
So Jason got to do the final landing. And we caught a really cool learning moment during his landing rollout.
All right, you got me in there?
I got you.
Now unfortunately the tail cam killed a bug during the previous go-around, but the shot was clear enough to illustrate the issue.
All right, landing gear's down, latch, handle neutral, pressure's up, green light.
I feel tight, hot, and high.
You're okay. Keep it coming.
Good.
Jason's going to be sharing his own episode about this flight on his channel, The Finer Points, so I'm not going to show the entire approach. What I'm more concerned about here is what happened on the landing rollout regarding positive transfer of controls.
There you go.
Okay. Got it, you're on the controls.
You still got the airplane?
So I appreciate Jason letting me share this learning moment that even an experienced CFI can sometimes make the mistake of just stopping flying when he's supposed to be in control.
All right, now I got the airplane.
You got the airplane.
I got it.
Yeah, my center line just was horrible.
Right turn on 5-2.
Loss of control is fixable and it starts with awareness. We have to be aware that this is our problem before we can fix it. If you and I can help one person, it was worth it.
Holy cow.
That was fun. You know, we had a lot of fun, and I'm still on this bandwagon of trying to save some fatalities, and I appreciate you guys going along to burn up your time in editing and film to help share my message via video with other people.
All right, so I want to thank all the sponsors, the Patreon supporters, and in this case, I also need to thank Gold Seal for sponsoring this one. We burned a lot of gas, and we had a lot of fun.
I guess that was probably your first time on a DC-3?
That would be the first time on a DC-3. It was.
So what did you think of that?
I actually had an absolute blast.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Steve.
Yeah,
Pleasure meeting you.
This whole experience has been like a dream come true, right? So I moved here last summer, and I heard about Sunnyfly, I've seen the videos, my YouTube stars, you know, like you guys are all here, and you know, you guys really inspire us to, you know, go out on adventures and go see things.
Granddad flew DC-3s. The sounds, nothing like a radial engine. You got two of them. You're in there. They're pounding. Nice to kind of get a taste of what he went through every day.
It was just really cool to actually be listening in and seeing what you guys are doing up in the front there. As a pilot myself too, it was actually taught me a lot in, you know, just seeing what the instructors are going through and learning how to deal with distraction in the cockpit.
It worked really good in the constraints of sun and fun. It was all very safe. You know, the gear was down the whole time, so there wasn't, you know, an actual problem of any kind there.
And just to answer the question of how did you get it to stay yellow, so some people might ask.
The gear handle has a micro switch on it, so the gear has to be in absolute neutral. Even though you put the gear down, I already got a green light. The gear's down and locked, handle neutral, pressure's up, the green light, it's perfect. I just moved that micro switch 1/4 of an inch, and it goes from green to orange.